So it's pretty much, I'll start over. Okay, so jollof rice is mostly a West African dish, and mainly starting in places like Senegal or Guinea and places like that. However, a lot of other West African countries have taken it and made it their own. So all the different countries actually created in their own unique ways, in different ways, but there's still the foundation of like onions and tomatoes and tomato paste as being the foundations for it. I'm also going to make groundnut soup, which is actually Ghanaian staple dish, but I'm going to make it like the Sierra Leonean way, which is a bit more soupy and more like a sauce rather than like more of a stew. Groundnut soup is eaten with rice, or it could also be eaten with fufu, which is kind of like a dumpling. You can make fufu out of like cassava or yam or plantain or any of those types of things, or some people can eat it with have banku, and maybe you can eat it with that as well. But I'm just going to be making it so that people can eat it with rice, and you put it over the rice. Now, the Sierra Leonean style of jollof rice, which is what we have, is going to be mostly, we'll have a stew attached to it, what I call a stew. Some folks may call it like it's like an onion and tomato fried dish, and that you put over the jollof rice. So to get started, I'm going to use, do you have any questions so far? Oh, okay.
Nope, you're doing fine.
Okay, so the first thing I did, and as I mentioned, we went ahead and soaked 2 cups of this is basmati actually, so you can do basmati rice or jasmine rice or anything like that. We washed it, we salted it, and I soaked it, and I just put it aside so that it could soak for at least an hour before we could actually get started cooking. Then what I'd like to do is go ahead, and I've washed all my vegetables and I've dried them, but I'd like to go ahead and cut them up and put them in the oven. And so the oven is preheated. I'm going to make sure it is baked 425. All right. And so then I can, I've got onions, but I also like putting some peppers in mine. You don't have to, it just depends on, I've got capsicums going on here. And I keep forgetting the name of capsicums and
peppers.
Peppers. Thank you. So, so we've got some over here. I do kind of like using them in cooking, but you don't have to. And I like to use some garlic as well. But the main thing are onions. So just to roughly chop these, and I'll put them in a bowl. And I've got 4 tomatoes that I'm also going to roughly chop. Sometimes people like to have the tomatoes with the seeds. Some people don't like them with the seeds. I'm fine with them with the seeds. So I'll put this over here so you can see what I'm doing.
What temperature do you want your oven set at?
I put it 425 so that it can kind of roast. We're going to be roasting them for about 20 minutes or so.
Okay. I have to move things out of my oven.
Say it again.
I have to take a few minutes to move things out of my oven.
Oh, there we go. And so I'm just roughly chopping these because these are going to go in the oven. So not to worry about that too much. I'm going to do the ones for the jollof rice first, although they're all going to go in the oven. So we're cutting up all of the not all of them, but most of the vegetables. So for right now, we're going to be cutting up 3 tomatoes and 2 onions for the jollof rice, and then we're going to do 1 onion and 2 tomatoes for the groundnut soup, and put them in the oven. My husband had asked, he's like, "Do you want me to peel onions for you?" I was like, "No, I can do it on the screen." I'm like, "Oh, I should have asked them to peel it ahead of time." But this is fine. Just going to.
All right, so how many onions for this?
So for the jollof rice, we're doing 2 onions right now that we're going to be putting in the oven.
Okay.
Are you kind of rough cutting the onions then?
I'm rough cutting them just because we're gonna blend these ones, we're gonna blend.
Okay.
Rough cutting onion.
So I'm taking the bases off and and take a couple of the layers of the onion skin off because sometimes it's very just want to wash it a little bit. Okay. And then once we're done with that and put that in the oven, then we can start doing the cooking portion of the other items.
So pretty
Yeah.
much we're cutting up all the onions and putting them onto the pan.
Just we're going to leave.
In the
We're going
bowl.
to leave. Oh, sorry. Hold on. We're going to use 2 onions to make the stew, but we're going to do 2 onions to be roasted, and then we're going to use 1 onion for the. So we're going to cut up 3 onions roughly
Okay, got it.
because we're making them simultaneously.
Okay.
Here comes Melissa.
Sorry, the audience love onions. It's like, I remember the first time my husband came to an event we were having, and he was like, "You all have a mountain of onions. That's crazy." I was like, "Yeah, but it's for everything that we're cooking. Like we cook with onions all the time, you know." And growing up, my mom used to be like, "Okay, we're doing Sunday cooking or Saturday cooking, and for the Saturday cooking, she'll start off with, I need 20 onions."
Oh my God.
Nice.
And so I'm like, okay, and that's kind of how you just get started with that.
Yeah, Orr said he had trouble finding Scotch bonnet, and we had a little discussion that, you know, they're pretty hot
That
for
again,
a lot
sorry,
of people.
you're breaking up.
No, Orr had mentioned they had trouble finding Scotch bonnet peppers, and we had a discussion about the heat of them. And so for some people, they're a little too hot. So I assume you could use whatever peppers you could tolerate in the dish.
Exactly. Scotch bonnet, habanero, red pepper, it doesn't matter. In fact, I'm not even going to have people cut up their peppers because they can get very spicy, right? So you can leave them whole and then smush them afterwards, right?
Good idea. Yeah.
I think that's a better.
Plus, when you cut them up, you get it all over your hands. And if you stick it in your face, you're going to be in trouble.
Exactly. I'm gonna put these. Oh, I think I may have cut up 1 too many, but that's all right. Okay, so I'm gonna put some oil on this and season them with salt and pepper before I put them in the oven to roast. Or
You're going to be in that pan, or you're going to be on a tray?
on a tray.
Okay.
So I think I just put about 2 tablespoons of oil in there. I just poured a few, and then about, I'll say about half a tablespoon, 2 teaspoons or so of the salt. And you can put pepper in there too, and just black pepper. And I use my hands a lot. Okay. So we're going to put them in a pan. So rough cut, just loosening up a little bit. And I'm going to remember that about 1/3 of these are going to go into my my groundnut soup. And 1/3 of the tomatoes are going, and half the tomatoes are going to go into the groundnut soup. Okay, there we go. All right, so put this aside, and I need some tomatoes that are going to go to the groundnut soup as well. And then I'll put some garlic in there also. I like the flavor of garlic. Some people don't. But so you can if you want to, or you don't have to.
So if you were going to add any of the peppers, when would you add it?
At the end,
Okay.
yeah. And well, there are two ways to do it. If I chop them up and dice them up, I put them in with the onions, but then I leave the whole one when it starts to cook and steam.
Okay.
So when I start frying the onions, I definitely will start using the okay, so just gonna put these in here, and I could have used the platter. You know what? I'm gonna use a bigger pan. So it can spread out a lot more. I put foil on the bottom of my pans just because, so that it does.
Yeah,
So it
that's
does
what I
not-
do too.
Yeah,
Easy cleanup.
easy cleanup, exactly. All right. Okay, so while that is cooking and baking, I'm going to get the chicken for the groundnut soup ready. Oh, what did I do with the chicken? All right, I need to go get the chicken. Hold on. All right, so I should have about a pound. I'm using chicken thighs because they're more flavorful. But these are boneless and skinless chicken thighs, and this is about 1.5 pounds, and I'm just going to use them for the food. And I will be putting them in the oven as well, so that they can cook that way. And you can fry them if you want to, but for groundnut soup, we try to minimize a lot of oils, but we will add a little bit of oil so that it can brown. But the reason why we don't, because it's more of a soup rather than like a stew. So it has a little bit of oil, but not much. Trying to limit the oil is helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and season this and get these ready.
Yeah, those are the ones I use too, boneless, skinless.
Yeah.
Or wants to know if there's other ground nuts besides peanut, or is it just peanuts happen to be the choice?
Peanut is the what we traditionally use for groundnut soup, and we use because another name that we use for peanuts is groundnut, and so if a person's allergic to groundnuts, that's unfortunate. I'll say that Sierra Leoneans and a lot of West Africans use groundnut for everything, for a lot of our soups and our sauces. And it's only as I got older, I was like, wow, what happens if somebody's allergic? You know, like, how do you handle this? And there really is not a substitute. Now, things like Benny seed or what's another name for Benny seed? Oh dear. It's small, tiny little seeds.
Sesame?
Sesame seeds. Thank you. I was
Sesame.
like, wait a minute, what's another? Yeah. So you could use that as flavor as well for different kinds of sauces. And so we ferment those and make other soups with that, which is really.
And a lot of nuts that we have in America, walnuts, almonds, are not always obviously available in other places.
Right. You know.
And now for the groundnut soup, do you roast your nuts or do you use like peanut butter?
If I was in Sierra Leone or West Africa, I would roast them and do all of that. Roast them and salt them and blend them and or grind them, which is another way that we do it. However, unfortunately, but here I either just get like right now I've got Jif because it's creamy and it's easy to break down. but I could go to like the market. We have a market that actually does ground peanuts for me sometimes, but it takes a really long time for me to get it broken down because it's not as creamy. It's because it's all fresh and it's thick and it's absolutely wonderful. But this, I'm just going to be using Jif today. And although it has palm oil in it, we try to get things that don't have sugar added and things like that. So now I am going to wash my hands and get the chicken seasoned. All right.
I used what's in my fridge, which is some hamburger, ground beef.
Yeah, okay. There's if folks want to make different kinds of groundnut soup and things like that, you can use beef, you can use dried fish, you can use chicken. Right now I'm putting in some thyme. I just put like about half a capful, and then I look at it and I'm like, I just want a little bit more. Then you want to put some salt in there. Again, just sprinkle. Put some black pepper, sprinkle that. All right, and I will I'll mix so I don't actually. I like what Suzanne's doing because she's got her spoon, you know, and I'm like, that's good. Then I don't have to keep washing my hands every single time I touch a chicken. It'll be almost done. You can remove the fat from it if you'd like to, and I sometimes recommend that, but we'll use some of the oils for the actual soup itself.
So what are we putting the meat into?
I'm putting it in a pan so that we can cook that as well. I'm putting it in a pan so we can roast it. This is still roasting, which is great. If you have I was going to use 2 small pans, but we'll see how it goes because this is going to take time to cook. Otherwise, I may have to fry it because the pan I use is a bit bigger than.
Oh, so the meat's going in the oven as well.
It is.
Ah, got it.
Do you have some space? Do you have enough space in the oven?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of oil. I usually like cooking with olive oil, but when I'm making Sierra Leonean food and stews and things like that, I usually use canola. But you can still drizzle with either olive oil or regular oil on the or canola oil on the chicken.
And palm oil is real common, is it not, in Africa?
Oh, it's very common in Africa. In fact, a lot of we call those plasas soups or palava sauces when we make like vegetables and then we cook them with palm oil. So I'll make okra with palm oil. I'll make cassava leaves, potato leaves, something called bitter leaf, all of those with palm oil. But with, and there's even a rice dish that we also use palm oil with. But mostly like what I'm doing today is kind of like what Sierra Leoneans would call like Sunday cooking kind of thing. So jollof rice or groundnut soup type of thing. And so we don't usually use palm oil. I shouldn't say all Sierra Leoneans, I should say my ethnic group, which is Creole. We do not use palm oil dishes on Sundays usually, but on Saturdays, every Saturday, the soups that we eat and the sauces we eat will have palm oil in it. So if my dad is visiting, there's an expectation that there would be, you know, palm oil soups or sauces and dishes prepared kind of thing and ready. Try to put this. All right. Okay, then we also have, so now I'm going to start cooking the stew for the jollof rice, now that everything's in the oven and we're preparing that. So for the stew for the jollof rice, I'm going to use the same pot that I'm using for the stew for the jollof rice as I will be cooking the rice in. It's kind of like a Dutch oven type of pot. It's a heavy base pot here because the rice tends to stick, and we actually kind of enjoy some of the what we call crao, or like the crustiness on the bottom. Some people actually just really enjoy that and love that. Recently I was looking at Persian cooking, and like they actually have a dish that actually has a very similar base, crusty on the bottom. I was like, oh, I didn't realize other people did that,
Yeah, there's other cultures that like that crustiness on the bottom.
On the bottom, yeah. Now, people will eat that separately from the actual the food itself, but they want to get that smoky flavor. And so when you cook it in a pot like this, it kind of gets that smokiness. And that's another reason why I'm putting it in the oven, so you can get some of that smoky feel. Because I'm not cooking outside, which in Sierra Leone, a lot of people would be cooking outside in an open flame kind of thing, and you'll get all that smokiness added. So I'm just putting it in the oven to get some of that smokiness. And also like the burning on the bottom will give some of that smokiness as well. So perfect. So that's done. So now I'm going to do the stew. All right. And I'm going to use 2 large onions for the stew. And so I had one already, and then I'm going to cut another one up. And I'm going to use 2 tomatoes for the stew. These are small, so I'm going to use 2 of these and 1 of these.
Those look like a Roma, what we call a Roma.
Yes, they are Roma tomatoes. I was going to do the beef one, what is it, like beefy tomatoes or what have you?
Beef steak, they call
The
it.
beef steak, thank you.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get as much because they're not as saucy as Romas are, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, I looked at the prices and I was like, wait a minute, it's like
Yeah.
$5 for one. I think
Yeah, and the Romas are a much better deal, and they're good for cooking.
and they work perfectly. So I was like, that's what I'm gonna be working with. Now they are a little bit smaller here. And so I'm gonna use 2 small ones and a larger Roma.
And there's more meat and less water in them, I think, too,
Yes.
in a Roma.
In aroma, yes, exactly. And we want a little less water in stews rather than the sauces in the soup. So we'll be cooking it through and cooking it out. So we'll do that. Okay.
So, okay,
Sorry, say that again.
I just need a refresher. So all the veg is in the oven and the
Yeah.
meat's in the oven.
And the meat's in the oven. Perfect. And we're going to keep it in there for about 20 minutes or so.
Sweet, okay.
Okay. And it's still on very high. So.
Yep.
So the chicken doesn't have to be all the way cooked because you're going to cook it some more.
Right. And I'm putting it at 425 and not like a 350 or what have you, because I want the top to mostly brown,
Yeah.
and then it will be cooked more in the soup.
Okay.
Yeah. And if we want to, you can leave it in there for longer, until you're ready to prepare it. So it's about 25 minutes. I'm thinking that will stay in there for. So it'll be there longer than the vegetables will be in there.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to put canola on here for. Oh, hold on. Now, let me move this away. For the onions, they have to be diced. They can be sliced in thin slices if you like onions. My family does not like onions. And I'm like, oh, I'm married into the wrong family. Because I'm like, onions are everything, So you have to, so I dice them really small so they don't necessarily see it as much. Like when it cooks down really well. But if it was a Sierra Leonean dish, it'll just be like sliced rings, or half rings. Just
Yeah, and a lot of Asian cooking, they do that with the onions. They don't chop them up, they slice them.
Slice them, yeah. And I love the way it looks when it's sliced, and it just, I don't know, there's just something about it. But I am gonna chop these up finely.
And it's a lot easier unless you have really good knife skills.
Right, exactly. And nice knives too. I'm like, we only have so many nice knives in this house. So I'm like, okay, But we'll dice them because the family has to eat it. But if you like the way onions are when there's a sliced round, then doing them really thin and sliced is wonderful, you know?
Yeah, and then they kind of fall apart as they come off in layers when you cook with them.
Exactly. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Sorry, it's very loud.
So how old were you when you learned how to make this recipe?
Ooh, how old was I? Well, you're expected to cook, you're supposed to be in the kitchen with your parents, right? Like my mom, when she cook it from, I think from like when we were 8, if you could reach the stove, you expected to be in the kitchen, you know, kind of watching and observing and the like. And she would mostly do most of the cooking. So, but I think maybe when I was like 12 or 13, because the kids, I've got 4 other siblings. The kids would started taking on cooking on Sundays, and making like a lot of different dishes and things like that. And so every so often we would make jollof rice. So I think maybe like when I was 12 or 13 we would start, but we would make all kinds of recipes. Like we would have all these different cookbooks from like all over the world, and we'll just look at a recipe and then we'll be like, okay, we need this, this, and this. And then
Right.
start cooking foods from everywhere. You know?
Wonderful.
But we had to do this, we had to do jollof rice every so once in a while because my dad was like, all this, what do you call it? It was like all this, what's the word he would use? Like would be practicing things, you know? And he's like, I can't, I can't keep eating all these things that you're all practicing and guesstimating and, you know, that kind of thing. So he's like, I'll just have some jollof rice on a Sunday, you know, so like at least once a month, you know, we'll make like jollof rice.
Nice.
Because we'll be like, oh, we'll make goulash this today. We'll make, you know, sweet and sour sauce, you know, just whatever we could find in a recipe book.
That's fun.
And then, you know, it'll be like a vegetable dish and a dessert and that kind of thing. So. Groundnut soup, on the other hand, that took me a little longer for some reason. I actually started cooking that when I got to college because I kind of just craved it. And so I'd call and say, just need to learn how to make groundnut soup. And my mom would be like, it's actually an interesting kind of soup because of the way how she's like, well, you know, it could be a midweek soup type of thing because of the way how it's the idea of it. So you would do a stew on Sunday, and then to make that stew last kind of thing, you'll make boiled soup, means that you'll add a boiled stew, meaning that you'll add like stew to it or water to it rather to make it stewy. And then on like a Wednesday, you'll make groundnut soup because then you'll add the groundnuts in it. But groundnut soup it's a soup on its own, but that's another way, was just the way in which people say.
You could kind of throw all the leftovers in.
Exactly, exactly. You know, it's like, oh, we'll just add groundnut soup and make that. But you can make groundnut soup from scratch like we're doing right now, and have it as a Sunday meal, part of a Sunday meal.
And you know, Fred's father used to run a restaurant.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
about that leftover food, Fred.
That makes a lot of sense, you know.
Yeah.
What are you gonna
Yeah,
make?
I've told this story before. My father would make, he would make soup every day. And then on Saturdays, he'd take all the leftover soup and put a bunch of pepper in it and call it pepper pot soup. And everybody loved it. And every week it was different because of the different soups.
Yes. Because it's like, okay, what else, what's left over, you know? Like I made bread pudding one time, and my husband gets very frustrated because I'm like, I'll just say, what do we have? and I'll make it, I'll make something. So I had like, some stale French bread, baguette, and it was hard, and I was like, perfect, I'll just make some bread pudding. And I was like, oh, what do I have? Oh, I've got heavy cream. Okay, great. I've got eggs. Okay. And then the next time I made it, I had a different kind of bread, and I had coconut milk. And so I was like, okay, and coconut cream. He's like, I'm just gonna make my bread pudding with this. And he's like, don't do that. Like the bread pudding the first time was fantastic. You're now just creating things. I'm like, yeah, because I just saw what was left over, and that's what I was making.
That's the way Suzanne cooks.
That's what I do.
I love it.
I just
She's
throw things.
big on substitution.
Yes, I'm very much so.
So how do you cut up your tomatoes?
So I will slice those. But these ones, if it's got a vine, like the seeds, I may remove the seeds from it. And the reason why, because you want it to be a dry stew. Or you can, so I tend to take out some of the seeds, and then I dice them up into tiny diced cubes.
Okay.
Okay, so my onions are almost done here. And you can put your pot on so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to think, what can you see on that side? All right, I will put, I'm gonna put my pot to cook this.
Yeah, that's
here.
great. We can see it.
You
That's
see
fine.
that?
Yeah, you're talking us through it anyway. So
Perfect. And then I'm gonna start heating. Oh, got onions everywhere. I'm gonna start heating up the pot so that it's nice and hot. And then I'm going to put about half a cup of oil. We go through a lot of oil, and we go through a lot of onions. And we'll put half a cup of oil in here, and we'll start simmering the onions and the tomatoes. But we'll start with the onions first until it starts cooking, because we want it to break down a little bit more. And then we'll add the tomatoes, and we'll add the tomato paste. And we're going to use 2 tablespoons of tomato paste.
yeah, that's something that I forget too. You should heat your pan before you put in the oil. Where a lot of times people just put the oil in and heat it, put the pan on, which seems like the same thing, but it's not.
It's not, yeah, it allows for the heat to really, the oil doesn't, I don't like to burn my oil too much, right? So, so I heat it up, put the oil in, make it nice and loose, and then add the onions in it so that things can be really fried.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Makes sense.
Okay, I need a pot.
You got a lot of onions there.
I did. That I do. Oh my heavens. It's not, it's
You already told us the onion backstory, so.
yeah, it's like just piles, and
Your mama would be proud of you.
well, I'm not, I'll tell you what I started doing, because she'll always be like, I need 20 onions and I need 2 more. She'll always say that. So then what I started doing was I'll make 18 onions, because I knew she was always gonna ask for 2 more. And then do the 2 more. And then, sometimes they're like, I think I need an extra one. I was like, oh, I couldn't get away with it,
Don't go short on onions.
Yes, never do.
I was helping with all the ladies once making food in India for my grandmother-in-law.
Yes.
And there were 6 of us peeling garlic. And we just had this monster mound of garlic. Just wild, but it was so good.
So, and peeling garlic, I'm just like, oh, so I'm like, I'm always going to squish it and peel, squish and peel, because it makes life a lot easier. Or in the US now, like they have a lot of pre-peeled garlic. So it's like, okay, but I peel these ones. I went to all fresh ones.
When I smash the garlic with my knife, my Apple phone goes off and says, "Did you take a fall?"
Oh no.
Oh, that's funny. Oh goodness. Perfect sense. Let me bring my trash can back here. So I'm just going to take out some of the You know, sometimes you can put this in the sink or the garbage disposal if you have one. We didn't grow up with a garbage disposal, so everything goes in the trash or it goes in the garden.
Or would turn it into soup later.
And turn it into soup later, exactly.
They just passed a new law where I live where they're doing composting now. So we separate, we've got trash, recycle, and compost.
Oh, wow.
So all the food stuff goes in the compost part instead of in the trash.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's-
because I
that
mean,
was
the idea behind it is when you get all those organic things in the landfill, it creates methane gas, and it's
Mhm.
you know, it's not good for the environment. That's the
Yeah,
theory behind it.
That makes
Yeah, we've had,
sense.
I think we've had compost or what we call it organics
Yeah.
for probably 5 years, 7 years. Something like that. Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's a
love
good
that.
idea.
Hmm.
Because unfortunately where we live here, there's very little, I don't like, even recycling, you have to be so, you have to do it yourself. There's no recycling pickup in most of the communities where I live. I was like, what's going on here? You know, and then, but you can take it to, we have a recycling center of sorts, about a mile up the road from where we are. And then we've got one about 3 miles away. So we can do that. But there is no, you know, if you don't compost yourself, then there isn't something to work with, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, oh, I want to show you the pictures. Okay, so my onions are diced here.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay, and I did put some garlic. You can see some little balls of garlic on the back, and I just diced those. And then the tomatoes, I'm dicing those up now.
Oh, I've already got my my onions on the stove.
Yes, I should do that. So half a cup of oil. This is a cup, but we'll do half a cup here, half of that. Perfect. And get that cooking. So that they can start cooking up. All right. Should have let it heat up a little bit more, but that's okay. Right. And so this is on medium high because I want it to really cook. Whew. All right. That's looking good. The vegetables.
well, moisture coming out of the oven there.
Yes. It's like, that's perfect.
I can smell it up to here, or this on the kitchen.
Like, oh, thank you. Oh, and because of all the onions that we tend to cook, I like to burn candles in the house and open up like the screen, the windows and things. So that is timer off. So I will take the vegetables out while this is. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to blend the jollof rice. You know, I'm going to change my pot because I actually have I'll use a bigger pot, another pot, because I want the jollof rice to actually start cooking so that you can see it, because I'm looking at the time and realizing I'm like, oh no.
I've
You
got
say
the
we're-
whole rest of the day free.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not on a real time schedule. There's not another show following this one.
Okay,
This is it.
perfect. Okay. All right. Tomatoes. Okay. So the onions are cooking. And then, as I mentioned, I do like some just regular capsicum peppers, bell peppers. That's it, bell peppers.
Yeah, bell peppers, they come in different colors.
Yes. Like bell peppers.
Oh, that's what I forgot to buy. Oh, nuts.
No, you didn't. You didn't, because I did not include it. I just said sometimes I like to have them included.
Ah, got it.
But it's not necessary at all. I
Cool.
just like to have them sometimes.
Okay. I just felt like I was missing something from the recipe and I couldn't figure out what. I think I got everything. That's all right.
I was like, I just wanted to do like a very like without all the frills,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
It
But
adds color. It's nice
Yes.
because it adds color.
it definitely adds color too. Well, the sauce is going to be very red to begin with. It's like a very pinkish red sauce. Not pinkish, it's reddish red, you know, type of sauce, because of the tomato paste. And so sometimes what I would do is use yellow or red or orange, and it'll just it'll lift it, you know. But I'm just going to use red, and it'll just kind of blend in with this. But everything is diced really tiny. Let me not even do it, because they don't enjoy the onions and peppers. You're like, oh my goodness, this is my world, you know. And you'll see that when you're cooking the onions, you'll notice that the liquid starts to draw out of it, and it just begins to look a little clear. And when it starts looking clear, I'll add the tomatoes to it, and then I'll add the tomato paste. There we go.
And how much tomato paste would you add?
For the stew will be
Yeah.
2 tablespoons of tomato paste.
Okay, got
That'll be
it.
about, I would say about 2 ounces from a
Okay.
6-ounce can.
Okay.
So I just
I
use.
think a little tip we talked about before is that, you know, you open these little cans and then you only use 2 tablespoons, but you can buy it in a tube.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh. See, what a good idea, because we tend to waste it, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, thankfully today we're going to be using the entire can in a bunch of different ways.
There you go.
Well, I wind up just putting it in the freezer, the leftovers.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't use it very often, which is why I have a tube of tomato paste when I need it
Nice.
occasionally.
Nice.
Okay, now I am. Whew. So the vegetables are cooked and done there. And then the chicken is roasted. There. I'm gonna leave it in there for and turn off the oven. All right. Okay, so now that is being done. I'm gonna put I'm gonna turn down the heat a little bit to medium. get my can opener. And get 2 tablespoons. A bit heat from the first one because some of it remains on there. There. Okay. Add the tomatoes. And there. Mix it
Oh,
all
it
in.
does make it really red. That's cool.
It's red, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we will let that simmer through. Some people may, you could use a cup of oil if you wanted to, and then use some of the oil in the cooking of the jollof rice. But I just want to make a stew and just, this is what we call a Sierra Leonean, a basic Sierra Leonean stew. Onions, tomatoes, tomato paste, and oil. All right, so let that keep cooking. On medium. Add the capsicum, the bell peppers, if you would like to, if you have them, to add them. If you want to add garlic, you can add garlic as well.
I added a whole bunch of garlic.
Yeah, I love garlic, so I am with you on that one. All right, so that's done. There we go. Dishes. So you actually don't cover the pot because you want the water to evaporate from it, and you want to make sure that the stew, you know, so it makes it like an oily stew. Like, so you'll see the oil when it's finished cooking through, then you'll see the oil kind of like seeping, you know, like around the onions and the peppers and things. Okay. So that's what you're looking for there. All right, so that's done. Let's see. All right, now we're going to do some blending. And we'll season this in a few minutes, but we're going to just let it stew for a little bit and then we'll add our seasonings. All right, so now I am going to go ahead and start making the stuff for the groundnut soup, actually, instead of the jollof rice, because I think we can still use this pot for the jollof rice. But the groundnut soup, I'm going to use a different pot for it. And we're going to start doing some, I'm going to try to make some stock. So I have some hot water that I was boiling, but I'm just going to put the hot water back on again so it can boil. I have vegetable bouillon base. So I'm going to use that to make my stock and add that to make the groundnut soup. You can also use chicken. I will get a chicken cube to add to it too, because those who are eating it will be doing it with the chicken.
Or you could use chicken broth in a box or something like that.
Exactly, exactly. What did I do with my measurements? So it's like 1 teaspoon is equal to one cube, which is equal to an 8-ounce can. So I'm just going to mix it in here with this is a 4-cup measuring. So hold on. So we'll use 1 teaspoon, but because I really want it to be more tasty, I will use 1 teaspoon, but I probably will add more salt later. Right.
What is that one?
This one is better than bouillon.
Oh, that's the bouillon. Okay,
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
gonna
didn't
use
know.
1 teaspoon. Yep.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna add that to water to make your stock.
And then how many cups of water or of broth?
For the groundnut soup, we're going to start off. I can put 5 cups, but that may make it too watery. So we're gonna start off by doing 2 cups first, and then we'll do 2 cups later. And if we need the extra 1 cup for the 5 cup, then we'll do that. But we're going to go ahead and do
Yeah.
two of these and 2 cups of water.
Yeah, you can add water, but you can't take it out very
Take it
easily.
out. Exactly.
Exactly. Now, Fred, could you come over and clean my kitchen for me? It's just a disaster.
I'm good at cleaning kitchens.
Ah, such a mess right now.
Well, sorry, I mean, cooking is not neat. That's
Oh, no,
another
this
thing.
is like, this is leftovers from the last couple days. I've been focused on doing other projects, like my garden.
I'm gonna use hot water to mix the to mix it. So I just add a little bit, dissolve it. And then add more. Okay. So now okay. So if you remember, we used 2 onions. We put 3 onions on the pan, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm going to try to divide it into thirds for the and do a third of the onion for the groundnut soup and half of the tomato that we put because we put in 2 tomatoes in there.
Okay.
And I'm putting the garlic, of course, that I and garlic in it too. And half the tomatoes. And then some people put curry in theirs. I don't, because if I'm gonna make a curry, I'm making a curry, you know. This is for groundnut soup. I'm like, this is what I'll do. Right.
So in the pan, we're putting the 2 cups of broth,
Yeah.
a third of the onions, and
Yep.
a half of the tomatoes.
Exactly.
So she's adding those things to the blender and then adding the stock to the blender.
Yes.
Blender. Oh, shoot, I gotta find there's my blender. Okay.
Yes. So then put it in the blender, or if you have a
Immersion
Immersion, thank you.
blender.
exactly, you can use that as well.
Ooh, that might be better
Yeah.
because that's sitting
Yeah,
right
you can put
here.
it directly in the pot and do it that way. I don't have one, but that is on my Christmas list.
You gotta be careful with them because they can spray stuff all over the kitchen.
Ah, interesting. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so I'm just gonna just blend it.
This is why you chop that stuff up fine, was it?
Sorry, say that again.
You chop these things pretty small?
Not very small. but
Oh, they went, oh, they're roasted, so they're
they're
soft.
roasted, so they wilted.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it, I got it.
Okay. So I will, and then I'm gonna take this, I need to use my pot, my heat. Okay. So we will put this in here. I just need to transfer this over because I don't have a lot of, there we go, space. All right. And nice cleanup, like general, so it doesn't get too stained on my pan. Right. Okay, so now I'm gonna heat this up. Front. Okay. And your stew should just be cooking away, just cooking away, wilting, and doing what it's supposed to do. You'll notice that it's not looking glossy. And that's when you know that it's, let me get I want to show folks a little bit.
That's good.
Right. So the stew is looking like that, but we want to make it a lot redder and more glossy.
Oh, good.
So it still looks a little stewy because it's got the tomato, you can sense the water is in there. So every so often just to mix it. Oh, how pretty.
Yeah, it's looking all right. Yay.
It's phenomenal. It's frying. That is wonderful. I love that. And I like you sliced it too. And so when you slice it, it just has a different look, you know, in a different sense. So I'm going to switch over so that I can cook the soup on this side. Okay. All right. Aha. Are you still blending?
Yeah, she's using
Yes,
an
okay.
immersion blender.
So the other,
Yeah.
perfect. All right. So other things that we'll need to put, what I'm going to also add into the blender is the 1/3 cup of peanut butter. If you have it, if you have the ground peanut butter, and also 2 tablespoons of the tomato paste. And I had indicated to bring out 2 cups of the tomato paste because sometimes you may need to add more. You know what I mean? So good idea about the freezing of it. So we need a 1/3 cup of the peanut butter. I'm going to use dip. And okay, I'll add a little bit more. Make sure that it is a 1/3. Okay. So
What I like is my little local co-op they have a little machine there that has roasted peanuts in it, and you press the button and out comes peanut butter.
peanut butter.
Yeah.
It's
My favorite.
wonderful.
So I did it last night, so it's really fresh.
Oh, perfect. I know. And that's why I'm like, I miss
And no salt or sugar in it that way.
Yeah. It's like otherwise it has sugar, it has palm oil, and you're like, I don't know. So I try to get ones that don't have sugar added because otherwise it tastes different. It tastes funny, you know.
Americans are used to sugar in their peanut butter, I think, unfortunately.
So it's you know, I was like, okay, you know, how do you make this in a way that can be quick and easy and not have to do a lot of like pre-prep type of thing, but with some pre-prepping. All right, let's see. But it's so much nicer when it's just fresh roasted and you do it, and you get it done. All right. So, and I need 2 tablespoons of my
Tomato paste.
exactly. Okay. I want out. There we go. And I'll blend that. And we're good to go. Okay. All right.
Oh, people, this tastes so good. Holy
Yeah?
shit. Yes. Oh my God.
Good to hear.
It's like peanut with a slightly tomatoey tang. Mm.
Well, I am glad you're enjoying. A lot of when people hear like they're like, you put peanut butter in sauce and soup, and I'm like, it's ground peanuts, it's like trying to change the mentality because the first thought is peanut butter and jelly, right?
Mhm.
And, but I'm like, it's a flavor that you would that may not be familiar, but if people eat Thai cuisine or Thai food, then you're like, oh yes, of course you put peanuts in everything.
That's right. Yeah, we associate peanut butter with sweet, not savory.
Yes. So that was the 2 cups in there. And so I'm going to make more stock and kind of clean this out a little bit and add and just add 1 cup at a time kind of thing, just to kind of see how it looks and how it feels. So to heat it up on medium to medium high a little bit so that it can cook, and then we'll reduce it to medium.
So this is what mine looks like.
Oh, that looks
Yeah,
phenomenal.
looks
Yeah.
great.
Let me, it looks very, yes.
So it's like not super soupy. Oh, look at yours. Oh, yum.
So I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, so that looks really good, what you have. Perfect. So we'll just keep on, we'll keep on, we'll add 1 more cup because I don't want it to be too, I don't want it to be too loose right now. I just want it to be cooking and simmering. Where is my other one? So I'm looking for, I'm just gonna put this on a plate. Right? And so it's gonna get an aroma. You're gonna be like, okay, you can sense that. Oh, I switched containers and I forgot to lower the heat. For fire sauces. So the stew just keeps on stewing away. And just cooking and cooking. All right. And it'll have some smokiness to it, because mine's a little burning on the bottom, which is fine. Like I never worry about things burning on the bottom. I just don't want it to be all burned. You know what I mean? So just a little bit. There we go. All right. So this will be cooking. Okay. When it starts to boil a little bit, I'll add another cup of the bouillon. And some hot water. 1 cup of it. Mix that up, mix that up. And I'm going to try to get as much of this mixture out of here. And we'll leave it there. And so that's going to simmer and I'm good to go. I'm going to wash out my jar because I'm going to blend the jollof rice stew information, the stewed vegetables and put them in this blender. All right. Now. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to show you what the stew looks like. And you'll note what the like I was talking about the oil and the glossiness of it, which Suzanne, right? Suzanne, yeah, Suzanne's already looks a lot more stewy. Okay. So you can kind of see the oil kind of floating a little bit, and you can see that the vegetables are glossy, and so that's pretty good for the stew. So I'm going to take this out in just a minute after I finish blending all my vegetables for the jollof rice. And then we'll cook the jollof rice. We're going to be seasoning things. We hadn't put the seasonings in, right? So we can go ahead and put seasonings in: salt, pepper, thyme. Thyme, is such an important component. THY, such an important component. That's kind of like what makes jollof rice and jollof rice stew and Sierra Leonean stews like their stew. And so putting 2 teaspoons of thyme in there, it seems like a lot, but it's we are quite heavy-handed with the thyme. And put salt and black pepper as you would like. I'm also going to add a scotch bonnet in here. So that it can, in both the soups, 1 each, whole, because then I can like mush it up later and have it to my food, and then the others can eat their food without feeling like, oh my goodness, this is super spicy, so because my son and my husband are not partial to spicy food. All right. So I've got some, I'll just put 1 each. And I'm leaving the stem on here because if I remove the stem, the fluid may seep out and get really spicy. And then also I can figure out where it is. And I can pull it out. So
you're adding the scotch bonnets 1 to each?
1 to each, yes. And depending on what your profile, your heat profile is, you can add. If I was cooking it just for myself, I would put 2. I would cut 1 up and put 1 whole. But I'm just going to put the whole ones in there right now.
Well, and I picked up serranos instead, so
yes.
a little bit, not too much. So
yes, that sounds good. I like serranos. Yeah. And they've got a great flavor. Okay. There we go. Let's finish it right there right now. All right. So let me go ahead and let's see how the chicken's doing. Chicken looks good. I just left the chicken in the oven. You don't have to. You can pull it out earlier just because it's just space. Like I've got space issues. But that will work. All right. Now, for these vegetables, I'm actually going to use a 1/4 cup of oil because I want it to fry first. before it actually begins to steam. So when I put it in here, I'm going to cook it with oil. If I need more liquid to make it blend, then I will add a little bit of water, but I'm going to try to minimize the amount of water that I put in at this time. When we're about to cook the rice and we're doing all of that, then I'll be adding the water. But first I want it to be like fried, and then also have the rice fried in it before we go ahead and add the liquid. Okay, so.
And so the veggies you're taking are the ones from the oven.
Exactly. I'm taking
Okay.
the balance.
Okay.
And they should have like a bit of a smoky feel, flavor to it and the like. So now I'll add a bit of, I'm going to add a bit of oil to it, just a little bit, about a quarter cup of oil in there. Okay, so I'm not filling it up, I'm just adding a little bit of oil and we will blend this up. Okay. And the remaining tomato paste that you have, we're going to use that, and we may have to use a little bit more tomato paste, so that's why we've got the second can going here. Okay, blend. So I'm pulsing it. All right, so that's done. And then the groundnut soup is cooking up away, and just going to cook that up. And you can you can add, as I mentioned, your seasoned spices. So I'm going to taste it first, just to kind of see what the salt flavor feels like. Okay. Okay. So I definitely don't need to add salt, but I will go ahead and add the black pepper and some thyme to it. Okay. About half a capful, which is about 1 teaspoon of thyme, but I'm going to add two, like I'd like to do 2 teaspoons of thyme. Well, for the groundnut soup, maybe not 2 teaspoons. For the stew and things, we'll definitely need 2 teaspoons. I'm going to add more water to it in a minute. And I don't think I need to add more stock because it actually, this has it does have enough salt in it. So I'll add about 1 more cup of water, or half a cup, not 1 more, and then just let it stew and continue to stew in there. All right. All right. I'll do half a cup first, and then I'll go back to, yeah, just half a cup more. All right, and now it's more like a soup, which is thickened, and then I'll be adding the chicken to it later. But I'm gonna take some out for me. So then when I add the chicken to it, then they can have with chicken in it, right? So then I'll be able to have my version. All right. Okay, now when we what I'd like to do now is add the chicken to this, but let me go ahead and take out a ladle. I should have used a ladle, not a spoon, but. Okay, this is taking longer because I wasn't thinking. I mean, I was like, I'll get a ladle, and I got a spoon. So we will just do that. And then. Okay, and now we'll add the chicken. And the chicken, I'm going to put, we're just going to put all of it in there. And the chicken is all, it's browned.
And so the chicken's going into the stuff that we just blended.
The groundnuts, no, sorry, no, the groundnut soup.
Oh, okay, the meat's going in the soup.
The soup, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I asked.
Yes. I mean, you can do it in either, it doesn't really matter, truth be told, but I just, I'm just making groundnut soup with chicken. And if you have any oil that's left over, like any oil from the chicken, you can add that in there. Okay, and all of this will just cook. All right. And you just let it simmer. And it will simmer away and we'll be good to go. All right. Oh, sorry, you can't see me. There we go. That's my ice maker. Okay. All right, now I'm going to remove the stew from the pot because I want to use the same pot to make the jollof rice. Can you see me? Yeah, okay. All right. And I'm going to switch over. I'm going to switch again so that you can see it as it's cooking. All right. So this is just going to simmer and you'll just let it, so put it on like medium to low heat, let the groundnut soup simmer and let the flavors of the chicken, infuse the soup, but also the soup infuse the chicken as well. And so that will be done. Now, let me take out the stew. Okay. And I'll leave some of the onion in there. Also, if there's any kind of what we'll call crowel a little bit, we'll leave that in there also. And we will make sure that all of that gets cooked through when you're cooking the rice. Okay. So the stew is done. It's like a gravy, a stew. We call it stew. Some people say gravy. So it just depends on, I guess, where people are from and what they call a mixture like this. Gravy for some folks is just, it's more saucy, like a thick sauce. Some people may say that this is like a stew, with like beef or chicken or what have you in there. And then, so it just really depends. Okay. All right, let's put that there, that there. All right. Now, in a pot with just a little bit of oil, I'm using the same pot I just took the stew out of, and I'm going to cook the blended mixture that we just did. And we're going to fry it up. So I'm going to put it on medium high. So you can like fry. It's already cooked, so that's not a problem, but it just needs to fry up. And when we fry it, then we'll be able to add the rice to it. And when we add the rice to it, then we can cook it. All right, so put that on medium high so that it can fry up. Now, I have some of pieces on the bottom, which is fine because I want the smokiness to come through on the rice. So we're going to add some of that in there and we will cook it up. All right, and when you start seeing it fry up, then we'll be able to work with it. Okay, all right. So I'm going to put away everything. Don't forget to add your tomato paste. So the remaining tomato paste in this mixture, make sure that it's in here in the jollof rice portion. It's so, I think I love the tube idea. I'm going to start using the tube because then you can get more of it out. If not, you can also put hot water in there. Make sure don't burn yourself to be able to get some of this out. So I always keep hot water with me whenever I'm, and I'll add that to it later because right now I just want the stew to cook and fry up before I add any kind of liquid to it. And I definitely want to add more tomato paste because I want it to be a bright red color. So I'm going to add
I made it home.
Say that again. You made it home or very good?
I was going to log in and, or, talk to you, but I kept losing connection on the 7-hour drive.
Oh, no. It's all good.
I was so excited to cook this too. I bought it on Thursday, all the stuff. The only thing I had a hard time was the scotch bonnet.
And that's fine. I mean, habanero works as well. Scotch bonnet, habanero, different kinds of peppers, level of heat as well you can work with. So I think you'd be fine with whatever peppers that you.
I did find scotch bonnet in a bottle.
Oh, yes. Okay, be careful. That is highly concentrated.
Oh, I spent the time in the Caribbean. This is my hot sauce of choice.
Oh,
Perfect. So we are just frying up right now. The good thing is it's recorded, right? So we can go back to it and take a look at that, which is very helpful.
Oh, I'll be making it first thing in the morning because I've got everything. And Memorial Day, is tomorrow. So there's a potluck. So I'm going to be feeding a whole bunch of people with it. Don't worry.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's just but I've made jollof rice a bunch of times, but the idea of savory peanuts, I'm still trying to grasp that now. I've had the spicy Thai peanut sauce that they do for satay.
Yes.
Different Thai ones, but
not like this. I know it's something to conceptualize because in the US it's usually very sweet, as we were talking about earlier. But this, I think it's gonna be different. But I think you may actually enjoy the flavor.
Oh, I love. Now,
So-
have you ever used? You said ground nuts is your choice. Have you ever used any other nut butters?
I don't, but this, I don't know if it would work with other nut butters. But I've never used it, but I don't know if it, because it's ground nuts, but now that, we've been talking about it, I'm gonna try to see if like almond butter, may do
Well, I
something.
think, yeah, I mean, of all the nuts, maybe almond butter, because I think when you say ground nuts, it's probably peanut butter with the shells on it. In the US, they tend to take the skin off the peanut butter and make it less.
No, but yeah, we would, the skin would be on there. It would just, you will take it out, we'll shell it, but then leave the, I'm trying to think if we would, no, when we roast it, we do take the skin off. So it will just be regular and then just ground nuts is how we would do it.
By the flavor profile, I really think sesame would be a good idea.
Yeah, and sesame, I often tend to do it fermented. So my brain goes to the fermented type of sesame rather than the, so I would definitely have to switch my brain off, and say, let's try sesame. But we eat a lot of sesame seed. Like it's very common. We make desserts with it. We make like every time you turn around, it's like there's sesame seed around. So I would definitely think that that's something to consider. So if folks, cannot do the peanut butter, then definitely try to do the sesame. And I'll try almond. I think I will try almond one day and see how it comes across.
Yeah, I haven't tasted it, so I was thinking almond would be
Closer.
Yeah.
So I'm just showing folks what we did with the blended, the one for the jollof rice. And we just cooked it with oil and we're just trying to fry it up a little bit. I am going to add more tomato paste because I really want it a little bit redder than what it's showing right now. And so I'm going to add like another tablespoon of, I'm going to add a tablespoonful of tomato paste. Because I want to make sure that it really provides the necessary flavor that it needs, or the look and the taste that it requires. Okay. I do my.
now back home. Did you always do tomato paste, or
Yes.
did you ever make it, from tomatoes from scratch? That seemed like it would take all day.
Yes, I have never actually used. I've only done it with I've only done it with tomato paste.
Okay.
I've never actually made tomato paste before, and I don't know how to do that. I have to look that up.
It takes a
I
long
made
time.
food with, let's see, someone from Eritrea, and
Yeah.
we did it. Yeah, the tomato base took like 6 hours to cook down.
Oh my gosh.
It was like you cooked it until it doesn't taste like tomatoes. And there's
Yes.
the dish.
That would, yes, I don't know if I would be able to spend that time. Honestly.
Well, no,
I guess you have to, like, if we're doing it the way, authentically, we would have to do it that way, right? So.
well, that's where you could modernize it. And my mother said, use a solar oven. You just put it in there. A unique thing about a solar oven, it will never burn the food. It will cook it, and then if it runs out of water, it'll start dehydrating it.
Oh.
So I've done that before where I've cooked a pot of rice and forgot it. And then you get that crispy top layer of rice on the top because it dehydrates the top layer.
Yes.
So you could do that with tomatoes. Like my mom makes apple butter, tomato paste, peach butter, and she just puts it in there and lets it slow cook all day.
I love that. I mean, then that way it's not, you're just doing it and then you'll have a lot that you can store. And
it's free energy.
And that works, yes.
So I will never catch up to you, but I'm starting
Okay.
prepping for making it. I'm cutting all my onions.
ingredients, your vegetables. What I did was I put the recipe online as well.
Yeah, I
So
was listening in all along too, but
Okay.
yeah.
it'll make it easier. So I'm about to drain the water from the rice, and I'm gonna add the rice now to the jollof rice. I mean, to the the sauce for the jollof rice. And then I'm going to coat it, and so that the oil can kind of stir fry a little bit in the tomato sauce base. And then we're going to add we'll add some stock to it. And then from the stock, we'll be able to just let it steam for like about 15 to 20 minutes.
I noticed a lot of cultures do that. They'll flavor the oil and then fry the rice in the oil before they cook it. I think makes it so it coats it really well.
It adds, like, it seals, the way how I think about it is like it seals the flavors in, and then we cook it, you know, and so that it comes out very polished. What I like about, we always wash our rice first, but more recently I've started doing the whole soaking the rice, right? Only because it allows for it to cook quicker. Otherwise, we'll be here again about an hour. And sometimes the rice also sticks together if the starch has not been removed. And soaking it allows for more of the starch to be removed.
I brought this up to my regulars on the show that I think we need to find like 4 or 5 grandmas to come on this show and teach us how to make rice and see how in different cultures everybody makes rice, maybe all similar, maybe completely different, but like that's one thing. If I didn't have a rice cooker, I'm not very good at making rice.
It's that's one thing that folks say. It's like, oh, but how do you make really good rice? I'm like, it's second nature. Like, you have to, you know, but making rice and making jollof rice, 2 very different strategies, right? Because jollof rice, it doesn't need a lot of as much water as you would think. If you add too much water, it becomes very soft and pottagey. You know, if we don't wash the rice, then it becomes soft and pot, you know, so we've got to be really careful with how that's done. So I'm putting it back up on medium so that because I just put cold rice into.
So you're trying to cook it so there's no water left over, but not have it mushy. I mean,
Exactly.
That's a skill.
So for
And
the
also the rice was going to take up the flavors that you're frying it in.
exactly. I'm just going to let it just fry up a little bit in here. And then I'm going to add the water. I'm going to make the stock. And because I use 2 cups of water, 2 cups of rice, I'm going to do 3 cups of water stock. And sometimes I'm like, even a little less than that, but I think 3 cups should be fine. And then we're going to cover it with foil, because you want to make sure that it's everything that's in there is what's in there, like the steam and all of that needs to just completely steam in there. And then and I'll cover it with a lid that fits perfectly. All right, so let me get my
These are some good onions. They're making me cry.
oh, onions. I was telling folks earlier, I'm like, every Sierra Leonean cooking begins with, 20 onions kind of thing.
And do you have any tricks for making so you don't cry?
Oh, you cry. But today I didn't cry at all. I don't know why that happened. That's okay though.
Seems like everybody has different tricks and I've tried them all and none of them work.
None of them work.
For me.
I try to take the base off last before I actually, I take the base off the onion last before I start cutting, So we're gonna do 2 teaspoons. Wait a minute. There was water in here. I don't know that.
Oh, Elizabeth's still here from Jamaica. Look at, I'm cracking up a Jamaican ginger beer.
Oh,
Be home
ginger
after a
beer.
weekend away.
Nice. I've been drinking that all weekend.
Well, this is actually from Jamaica. Usually they're not.
Really?
In the US, yeah.
Is it the DNG one?
Oh, that's some good stuff. That's all right. I got my onions.
So so what's interesting, I like Jamaica's ginger beer is, we do ginger beer as well, but it's different. The ginger beer that we do, it's not beer, and it's not fizzy.
Oh,
It's still.
okay. Ours is not beer, but it's fizzy.
No, I mean,
Yes.
it's this right here. I mean, right on the front, it says SOF, soft drink.
Yes, it's a definitely.
I mean, it's it's a soda, but this definitely got bubble to it naturally.
So adding my hot water, 2 cups here, and I'm gonna add another cups to make it 3 cups. And it should just it should cover about maybe a half an inch to an inch, about half an inch over the top of the rice.
Wow. So do you do the knuckle test where it's this much water above?
Well, that's what I was like, I don't do the knuckle one, but I just,
That seems
I'm
like,
thinking that I may need to use a little less, but we'll see. No, I'm gonna just do 3 cups. And yeah, it's about a half an inch above. You can't really see it, but based on the one before, I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna boil it, make sure that it comes to a boil. And then we will reduce the heat. And then cover, you've got to keep it steamed in. Like the steam has to stay inside, otherwise it will not cook all the way through and it may become grainy. I think, yeah, 3 cups should be fine. 3 cups to 2 cups with all the sauce and all the stuff that we made with it, that should be plenty.
so my mom's way of doing it is having a really thick pot, bringing it to a boil for just a few minutes, and then just turning it off with the lid on and just leave it sitting for an hour. And it just
Yes.
like,
If I do white rice, just plain white rice, that's how I would do it. Like, I'll do 2 to 3, or depending, 2 to 2.5, or it just depends on the type of rice it is. After I've washed it clear, but then bringing it to a boil and then putting the lid on, turning it low, bring it to a boil, turn it low, put the lid on, and let it just steam, cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. And it's usually very fluffy. You can add butter to it if you want to. Definitely put salt on it. And on the like jollof rice, because of all the stewiness of it, it has a tendency to burn on the bottom, which is not a bad thing. It's we call it crowo, and some people actually love, like they'll just eat crowo. Is what we'll call it, and they absolutely just enjoy that. Now, I will say I just turned off my the heat on the groundnut soup, and it is it's getting thicker. And the chicken is in there, and I'm going to show it to you.
I think you're just doing that. You're going to show it to me to just tease me because I don't have it yet.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man.
So that's what it looks like, and it's just simmering, but it's done.
Suzanne, what does it taste to you like the peanut and the tomato?
Suzanne?
How unique is it?
Let me unmute myself. Now you can hear me better. Oh, it's so yummy. It's like tangy from the tomatoes, and the peanuts are it's so yummy.
There you go.
So I left one whole one, and then I chopped up a whole bunch of serranos in there.
There you
Perfect.
go. Suzanne, thank you for stepping up and being my,
Yeah.
the
That looks
cook.
so, it looks
and-
fantastic.
The taste is amazing.
Wonderful.
And so just like basically now you're just gonna let the jollof rice slow cook for the next what 20 minutes or so,
Yes, 20, 25 minutes. I was
and
talking
because
and
you
looking
have
and
so
I
much
forgot I need to
oil in
cover
it, because
Hold
you
on.
have so much oil on the bottom, it doesn't like stick to the pan very much. It'll just kind of crisp up and burn up underneath,
Exactly, it does. And so.
but
just
you don't
look-
stir it while you're doing it.
Say that again?
You don't stir it while it's cooking.
No, I'm just stirring it right now because to give it one last stir. I put it down on medium low so that it can simmer. And I'm putting foil on top of it.
Oh, you want to seal all that moisture in really well.
To get all the moisture in. Yeah,
You ever put it in the oven?
yes. Oh my gosh, if you do it in the oven, it also comes out really well.
So that was one question while you were doing the whole process. Do you ever roast the tomatoes and onions, in another way besides the oven?
You can grill them. If you would like to do that, you can grill them, which also provides a lovely, because the whole idea, I hope I didn't make a whole. No, I
You're
didn't.
trying to get some of that smoky burnt flavor, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so if you have a campfire, then it's really good.
That's
Mm.
when we're in
Or a
Sierra
barbecue
Leone,
grill. Oh man.
in Sierra Leone, we do it in an open, we do it at like, when I'm in Sierra Leone and you want to do like real authentic and you're making it for like big meals and big events and activities and things like that, you use these massive pots, and you get your 3-stone fire going, you've got your wood there, and you just cook it over this wonderful open flame and it's just like lovely, just deliciousness and steamy.
The smoke of the wood sneaks into there somehow, like.
Yes, and the pan, like the pots that you're using are like these big, like the metal pans, very heavy base pans, like just really, and it just, everything just kind of comes together and it just.
I've been dreaming of getting one of those pans because I cook a lot, and that would fit like the four burners on the top of a stove. I could do the whole top of the stove. I
Yes,
keep wanting to get one of those pans.
With all the kitchens restaurants that have folded during COVID, there are probably a lot of them around.
probably.
I have never seen one in a restaurant supply, like that type of pan. They probably have them, but usually, so.
So,
All
now,
right.
I was gonna say, if folks would like, they can make some white rice to eat with the groundnut soup. I am going to make some white rice now, just so we have it, and then and we can eat it together. I'd like to have it with the rice and so on. But again, some people may use a type of fufu, depending on which kind of yam or tubular root fufu that will be used.
So I missed it. Is groundnut something special or is it something ate regularly?
We would eat it on Sundays, like jollof
Okay.
rice and stew, Sunday meals. Groundnut soup, we would also eat on Sundays as well. However, some people may say that groundnut soup can be eaten in the middle of the week, because if you have your stew from your jollof rice, you can make boiled stew the following day. Meaning you add water to make it kind of go further, and then by the time Tuesday, Wednesday comes along, then you can make it into a soup with like groundnut and peanut butter and make like a groundnut soup from that.
Oh, so yeah, not waste what you have left
We don't-
over.
Exactly.
It's like-
However, the groundnut soup in itself is it's a food. It doesn't have to be like a leftover, but you could, do it that way as well. But we would eat it like on Sundays. We'll have groundnut soup and rice on Sunday. Then of course you'll have like a salad, what we'll call like a Sierra Leonean salad, which would be like a layered salad. That would be something else I would love to share at some point, where it's like you have lettuce on the bottom, you have eggs, tomatoes, you have
Does
you can even
anybody
have
have
like,
any final questions? I think we'll wrap up the recording and then we'll sit down and eat together.
and eat together. Perfect. So this is just gonna cook, and then you can cook rice and the like.
Nice. Do you have any final words?
I thank you so much for this
Thank you for
opportunity.
sharing
I
your
am really
food and
thankful
your
I could
culture.
like share Sierra Leonean cuisine with folks. I make it a little bit differently, as I mentioned, because of the vegetarian component of it. However, if folks want to, you can add any kind of meat to any of these dishes. You could do beef, you could do chicken, you could do pork, you could even do fish. I like dry fish jollof rice, so that's one of the things that I would enjoy, and add it to that, and it gives it again that smoky flavor that folks are looking to do. Sunday dishes, and today's Sunday, so it's perfect, family meal, and I think that this kind of provides like a bit of representation of just a general Sunday meal. And I do want to preface and say that my ethnic group is Creole. And so this is a very traditional Creole type of setup right here. So from Sierra Leone. But
Nice. Thank you so much. That's so good. Just
I'm
love
glad
it.
you enjoyed it.
So excited.
And I hope others enjoy it too. Thank you.